Hello and welcome to another DFR Morris Minor video. Today's video is going to be about what I would look for if I was going to purchase a Morris Minor. Now there's a lot of places you've got to check because they suffer badly from rust. You've also got engine components you want to check. Make sure everything's been properly greased, etc. So let's get started under the bonnet. Alright, so basically under the bonnet you want to check the heater tap, which is here. Make sure that there's no leaks, especially if it's one that's operated from inside the car with the cable going to it. They often leak, so check for that. Check that there's no drips. Check the exhaust is okay, seems solid. Check the fuel pump, have a look at the fuel hoses. Make sure you don't see any leaks. Fuel hoses look good. Fuel pump looks okay. Just a visual check of that. If it has got a brake fluid reservoir, check the level of that. Obviously check your oil, your coolant, make sure there's no leaks. Mine's got a brake servo too. You can check the pipes coming out of that for any leaks or anything like that. You can, even if you really want to, take the oil cap off, have a wee look inside the rocker cover if you want. Also you want to check under the bonnet. Actually underneath the bonnet quite often suffers from rust, particularly in the corners, both sides, and behind where the Morris badge is, behind here. Sometimes find rust in there too. Okay, moving on to the engine bay floor. Check that it's solid if you want. Make sure it's solid. You've got your engine mountings. Make sure the rubbers are there. There's no broken rubbers or anything like that. They seem solid. No rust. You can also look down there for leaks or anything like that. Take a look down the front here. You can see the pulleys. Feel the water fan belt. See if it moves side to side. Make sure there's no playing a water pump. Flywheel pulley should be okay. Just visibly check. Also, it would probably be worth checking to see if the wires have been messed about with. Quite often the wires have been changed and sometimes they're not done particularly well. Also quite often get rust down in this box section here. Check for that. You've got your two front dampers. Check for leaks at the bottom of them, just put your hand under them. Feel for any fluid. Both sides. They should also be greased here. Some grease doesn't do any harm and it's good practice. Also checking down there. Make sure everything looks okay. Okay, next, moving to the underside of the car. You want to check to see if there's any rust at the bottom of the body panel here. That's quite often a bad area. Check this box section here. It often rusts at the joints here. Take a screwdriver and feel about. Solid. No rust. Also, take a look at the tie rods where they go welded onto the bodywork. Again, that quite often rusts. Check that with a hammer or similar. Take a look at the steering components. Under here you've got your top and bottom trunnions, which I'll show you how to check in a minute. But when you're under here, just take a look and see if it's been greased. Quite often You've got to have a specialist grease gun that fits the grease nipples in these Morris Minors, because the new grease guns, the push fittings, don't fit them. They're too small. So quite often if you take them to garages and get them serviced, they won't have a grease gun that fits them, so they won't bother. So you should be seeing grease coming out of these wee gaps there. Same at the top. Check your track rod, it's well greased. Some of them don't have grease nipples, in which case don't worry about it. Check the tie rod's been greased there too. Pretty much all moving parts should have grease on it. If it doesn't, it shows you the car hasn't been properly greased overall. Be extra careful if that's the case. You can just take a wee look too under the engine in general, gearbox, just make sure there's no major leaks or anything like that. There's always a wee drip, but as long as there's nothing major, shouldn't be anything to worry about there. This main chassis rail, again, if you want, take a screwdriver to it. Quite often rust, and then covered with underseal and you don't know there's rust. So if you do that, you'll know. Take a look at the exhaust, see if there's been any repairs done, any issue with that. Then, moving on to the rear underside, take a look in the rear wheel arch. See if there's any rust at the seam between the outer and inner wheel arch. Quite often rust there. It's good practice to spray WD-40 under the whole underside of the car. That's what I do, and it generally keeps the rust away. Check your bracket mountings for your leaf springs here. Make sure the brackets are looking solid. Also check the bodywork here. Always rust there, as you can see mine's been welded. But if it is welded, just check. Absolutely solid, no problem. It would be an MOT failure if that had rusted through. Just checking in there. Take a wee look at your exhaust brackets, see what state they're in too. Bottom of the boot floor, behind the fuel tank. Again, take a look along. You can see there's been a patch welded here with me. Check that, solid. Water quite often collects in the bottom of the boot floor and rusts through from inside out, so you'd end up with holes. Not an MOT failure, but an inconvenience. Your fuel tank, check for leaks, just in general, making sure it's okay. No sign of rust or anything like that. You can see your rear axle there. Generally there's not going to be a problem with that. But what you do want to do, the prop shaft, check the universal joints on the prop shaft there. Place your hand around the prop shaft and move it back and forward. Feel for play. If there is play, that's not good. You can fix it, you can replace the universal joint, or in my case I had to replace the whole prop shaft. So just be aware of that if you are looking to buy a car you're not familiar with. Also, check your rear damper. Make sure there's plenty of grease on all the moving parts. Again, if you see that there's been plenty of greasing done, it shows the car has been well looked after. Also, check the bottom mounting bolts for the leaf springs. See that they're in good condition. See that the leaf springs themselves are in good condition. Should be sprayed with oil, light oil every so often. Quite often the leaf springs get particularly rusty if they're not maintained properly. Take your screwdriver if you're not sure, feel about, make sure there's no deep bits of rust, nothing chipping off. If you've got a saloon or a convertible, it should be a 5-leaf spring, and if it's a traveller or a van, it should be 7-leaf. Check, you can see the drum there, relatively new. Quite often people don't understand how to remove the drums, and rather than loosening the adjusting screw to release the brake pads, they go at it with something like a crowbar. And the original ones this car had to unfortunately change because the edges of them had all been broken because somebody had attacked them with a crowbar. Quite often a mistake people make. If you can't get the drum off easily, undo the adjusting screw, because you definitely don't need a crowbar to get them off. Alright, again, the other side, check the same. The damper, the leaf springs, the leaf spring mountings, both sides. Check the bodywork. Check everything looks okay in general. Check your main crossbeam. Make sure there's no signs of rust. Quite often they tend to split where the two pieces of metal are pressed together. If there is a split, don't worry too much about it, as long as the steel is still there and it's only a small split. If the entire thing's split, that's not so good. So just be aware of that too. Under a driver's door, quite often rusts here quite badly. Also because there's a drain hole, it rusts around there too. Under the actual door itself, quite often is always rusty, unless like me you polish the underside of the door. But that's somewhere you would like to check too. Also, once you've opened the door, you want to be checking the main support here. Check there's no rust. Take a screwdriver to these cautiously, because quite often they have rusted. I've got a wee bit of rust here. Nothing too severe, but don't put your screwdriver too hard in these because they're almost always rusty. Just be careful. I mean, if there's rust around the brackets of the door and things, that's all solid. You want to be concerned if you've got rust there. That's not an easy fix either. Check right up here. The Morris Minor roof is made of aluminium and the body is made of steel. Now as you can see, it's all riveted here, and because aluminium doesn't like steel, or vice versa, it rusts right up this seam, right round the top and back down. Particularly in that corner you get rust. So check that also. Then coming down, bottom of this pillar here quite often gets rust. Also people put a lot of filler in that, so check that too. As you come down, generally that panel's okay until you reach the bottom, and then you start getting rust there. If it's possible, if you're spending a lot of money in the car, take the sill covers off. It's only a case of undoing 3 screws and 3 bolts underneath, and you'll see the sill. That will show how well the car is underneath, behind all this, because it quite often rusts in there and people make terrible jobs of fixing them. Also, you can lift the carpet. Just peel it back here, take a look in there, see if there's any rust. Quite often this is a horsehair sound deafening that's here. So check for rust in the corner. It's very common in there. Water usually sits there. Also, just in general, check the interior. There's nothing out of the ordinary that you're not happy about. Also, checking the door, just make sure. Just in general that it's in good condition. seems all okay. Then to the outside of the car, check round these quarter lights, quite often rust here. Check the brackets on the bonnet, again the actual bolts that hold them in quite often rust, especially if they start to leak here. That can cause a leak inside the car, I've seen that one before. You also want to check the gutters. Gutters quite often rust. Usually they're filled with filler all the way along, that's what I had to do. So I wouldn't let that bother you. I've never actually seen one that hasn't got filler in here. To be honest, it's quite something that it even exists at all. Never mind a wee bit of filler in it, so don't let that worry. If the gutters exist and there's no big holes in them, think of that as a bonus, because that's quite unusual. Quite often rust around this seam here. Again, this is because this is aluminium and this is steel. So where the two meet, always rusts. Usually with some really far gone miners, this whole area is all rusted out. Check that. Just give it a feel with your hand. Make sure it sounds solid. Quite often people put filler in there. If you knock it, it should sound even. If you hear a different tone of noise when you knock it, somebody's probably filled it. Same on the other side, check too. Inside the boot, basically you want to check the boot floor. They always fill up with water. Just check, solid, no rust. You can take a look into the fuel tank, see if it's in good condition. Generally it's okay in there. Usually you'll smell petrol in the boot, just because that's where the fuel tank is. Again, I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's just because the gaskets aren't perfect, but it's not a problem. You can check for rust in the inner wings here too. Take a look down here, make sure it's all okay. Under the boot, brackets again, quite often go bottom of the boot right around here. Quite often rusts, you get bubbling in the paint here. You can check that too. You want to check the bottom of the front wings. They always bubble. I have a wee bit here that I've touched up. Just make sure they're solid enough, no problems. You can spray WD-40 in there and that'll keep the rust away. Now, in order to check the wheel bearings, what you want to do, basically a little bit difficult to film at the same time, one hand here, the other hand here, move the wheel side to side. If you can feel play, that'll be the wheel bearing that's most likely worn out. If you place one hand on the top of the wheel, rock it back and forward like that. If you can feel play in that direction, it's most likely the lower or upper trunnion which is worn out. That's a good check to do on all wheels. The rear wheels only require to rock side to side. Front wheels up and down too. That's important to check. Also along here, quite often, is filler. Not really any metal left, generally. This one's okay, but quite often filler down here. Check that too. You can take a look under the lights. Under the bottom of these wings here too quite often go. And anywhere else you feel that you want to check. When you're going to buy one of these, you can't do it quickly. Take your time, look around it. It can be difficult if the owner's standing watching you and trying to hurry you on, you know. But just take your time, check it. The last thing you want to do is spend a lot of money, drive away with a car, and you find there's either a lot of rust somewhere or it's got a mechanical issue. If you'd spent the extra 5 minutes checking, you wouldn't have bought the car if it was that bad. So I would recommend that you do that. Generally the engine is okay. You would really have to start the engine, listen to it, see how it runs to be sure. I'll do that in a separate video just to show you. But in general, that's where to check for rust in a Morris Minor.